All right, at this time, I will invite up our Rotarian of the day, Kevin Clark.
All right. We are joined today by Representative John Talley, who is running for re-election to Oklahoma House District 33, which wraps around the southern part of the city of Stillwater. Brice Chaffin, who was opposing Representative Talley, agreed to 2 different dates and canceled both dates due to work conflicts. So in consultation with the board, we decided to go ahead and proceed and leave an open invitation open to Brice in case the schedule changed again. No, you're fine, right? We are. And so anyway, we are going to proceed with an interview format rather than a highly structured forum format like we would typically do. So if you've never seen me in action on the TV 31 Morning Edition, buckle up. Here we go. And you can spin the wheel for Casey. No, these are all right out of my own head. He has no idea what's coming. Okay, so first we're just going to ask you just to introduce yourself in case anybody in this room doesn't know you. Who are you? Why are you running for re-election? And then we'll get into my questions.
Came here in 1973 to wrestle for OSU and got beat up every day. Yeah, unbelievable. The next year I met my wife, Carol, who is right there. We've been married 48 years. We have 2 kids that are adults now. And so some of you may know Saul. He teaches Oklahoma history at the 9th grade, and his wife teaches pre-K at Sanger. We have 2 grandkids with them. And then our daughter, Grace, graduated from Stillwater High from OSU, went to law school, and is an attorney in Nebraska. And our other grandson is there, named Arthur. I got a vocational agriculture degree, and I keep it up to date because teaching is the most important thing I think a person can do almost. Just, it's so important. So I keep it up to date in case I ever get to do that. To stay in Stillwater, though, I got to be the youth pastor at University Heights Baptist Church for 16 years. And this is my 30th year to work for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And so Coach Gundy has allowed me to work with the team for the past 25 years, even before he was head coach. So every Wednesday after practice, and many of you should come to this. It's unbelievable. The guys come over, take their helmets off, and then most of the time, I have a guest speaker come in and talk about, because most of the guys aren't going to go pro. And so I like for former players and businessmen across the state to come in and talk to them about life. What else do you need to know? We live out in the country. This is our 41st year to live where we live, and we let kids come out. Before COVID, we were averaging about 3,000 kids a year coming out and doing team building. And so this year we've got Mustang football team coming, and we've got Edmond Santa Fe football team coming. We're going to meet a Wasso football team at Skytook Lake and take them rappelling and team building. So that's the kind of stuff I do. I want to run again because after 4 years, I think you just figure out what the heck you're doing. If you come in and act like you know everything and you hack a lot of people off, they won't hear your bills. And so you have to go in and work with people so that you get things done. And I feel like I'm really starting to get things done. The governor signed 5 bills of mine this year. And then I had 12 bills that I co-authored that the governor signed. So I feel like I'm on the right track right now.
John, violence in schools and places of worship, in public places generally, has become a national crisis. And it's certainly hit the shores of Oklahoma, right? We've had some very visible incidents recently. What should we be doing as a state to deal with that issue?
Yes. It's awful what happened. Thank you, Jimmy, for praying for Uvalde. I go into about 50 schools a year, and I don't know very many teachers that want to carry guns unless they get cleat training. They don't want to carry a gun. And so I've heard people say, well, just arm all the teachers. Well, they don't want to be armed. So one of the ways we could do it is to beef up the sheriff's department, the police department, the officers that are on campus. But folks, it's hard because you know how big our schools are. Well, if you're at one end of Will Rogers as a resource officer and somebody breaks in at the other end, it would be a few minutes before that person can get there. And we've also, we've had a kid commit suicide in Stillwater Junior High a few years back, and it was horrendous. I don't think in the climate that we have in Oklahoma that we're going to take away any guns. I don't think that'll happen. The only thing I see that might do some good would be a background, to close all the loopholes of any background checks. If I can, and when I say that, if I sell you a gun, you don't have to do a background check. But, that, and it's illegal for me to buy a gun and like give it to them if I know I'm going to do that. But if I'm going to commit crimes, am I going to tell the truth on a background check? There's no easy answer. And I'm open to, I've had lots of emails in the last few days, some saying, let's make sure we know high capacity magazines. Some people saying, don't touch anything. So we're hearing the extreme. Is that true, Trish? So that's all I can say.
Well, following up on that a little bit, we have a Secretary of Education and other politicians who are really pushing strongly this idea of arming teachers. And to your point, most teachers don't want to be armed. Even with fleet training, they don't have the level of training that our police officers have, that our military have. I just think that is completely, as a former school board member, I think it's completely misguided.
I totally agree. Our son, who is one of the best shots, most safest, he said, Dad, kids come into the room, and if you want to be a good teacher, you're sitting there talking to kids, you're getting close to them. And where would a woman hide a gun on their body? And if you kept it in your purse, well, you got to lock it up. Well, if somebody came into your room, how are you going to say, wait a minute, I've got to go unlock my gun? There is no easy answer in America for this problem.
All right, so we're going to move on. The relationship between a Republican governor and a Republican legislature has been tenuous at best. He has vetoed a number of measures this year. The legislature overrode some of those very quickly and then adjourned. He's called you back into special session to deal with tax cuts that he thinks are important. A couple of the vetoes deal with using tribal court convictions for public safety traffic purposes, and also dealing with the governor's appointees and cabinet secretaries having financial disclosures. I think both of those things are appropriate, but talk about generally the dynamic of what's going on and some of these things I've alluded to.
Okay, I voted for both of those because I have trouble with someone saying I'm for transparency and then to vote against or veto a bill that is for transparency. Okay. Every bill is not perfect. Every law that we create is not perfect. Of the 300 laws that got passed this year, I would guess half of them are fixes, like changing a word from a previous law, taking out a sentence or something like that. So a lot of them get changed. His point was that this wasn't a perfect law to make it transparent. So let's don't do anything. And we're like, no, let's do something, at least get the ball rolling. So that's why. I'm going to say Kevin, but the governor, we've talked before, and I've made the point, being a CEO is totally different than working in the government. I mean, you don't get to make all the decisions. Certain things have to go through, anything that deals with money has to go through the House and the Senate. And he didn't think so. And so we've rubbed against each other some. I like the governor, but there's certain things that he's not doing that we need to push back on. We're going to meet on Monday for his called special session. We've already voted. The House voted to stop the state's part of the sales tax. We don't want to stop the city's part of the sales tax because there's lots of cities that would go bankrupt and be hurting. So I've had people go, don't stop the sales tax because the city of Stillwater. Well, they didn't understand that. But we had already voted to do that. It was the Senate that killed it. So I see us voting that in pretty quickly this week. And then I also see maybe a 0.25% drop in personal income tax would probably be my guess of what we would pass.
That's what he's asked. Do you
Yeah.
think that'll pass?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. In spite of him, I think it'll pass. Well, I didn't mean it bad. The House already agreed to that, but he didn't.
Okay, so there continues to be an effort nationwide to change how redistricting is done throughout the states, right? There's an attempt to move away from legislatures redistricting to these redistricting commissions, citizens commissions. How do you think we should be doing redistricting?
Being on vice president of the redistricting one for this area, I thought it was fine. I didn't see a problem. I didn't think anybody was hiding anything. That's just my personal feelings about it. I didn't see it as a problem. Now, did I hate to lose Perkins? Daggum right. But I'm not as powerful as Kevin Wallace, who is the chairman of the finance committee for the House. But I don't mind picking up the rule all the way to Guthrie because I'm a rural person. I live out in the country. So I just thought it was odd to take away Perkins from District 33 because it's in Payne County. So that was kind of weird to me, but I don't see a problem with it personally.
But you're okay with the legislature continuing to
Yes.
do
The way it was done, yes. Anybody could have come to any of those meetings, and we had lots of people from Perkins write letters saying, keep us in this. I think people had input, and I think that's the transparency that we want is input.
I'm going to ask this question of Trish in October, so we'll see if she has the same perspective.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Trish did great. So that's my perspective on Trish's area.
All right. So you're an educator. Your wife is an educator. Common Ed funding continues to be an area of controversy. The legislature passed about a 1%, if I believe the numbers are right, increase in Common Ed funding. The education generally wasn't happy with that. Talk about education funding.
Wow. Well, you're only talking about what, $3 billion or something like that. There needs to be audits, and I think we're working on that, of schools to make sure we're spending the money correctly when we give money to the schools. Can we give more? Yes, we should. How much more? It's tough. I know too much I know schools that have gotten rid of people that have to pay them off for a year or two. And it's kind of like when you get rid of a coach and you have to pay out their salary. That's a tough thing on a school district. And so we can't use that money to pay teachers or to do things in the classroom. And I wish there was some way we didn't have to do that across the state. Is that enough? I mean, there's no easy answer. Vouchers. I was so proud of the Speaker of the House saying, we're not going to vote on a voucher bill, but I will tell you, I had over 50 emails and people coming to and I thought this was interesting. Homeschool people coming to my office telling me to vote no on that if it came up, because they don't want the government doing anything with homeschool. And so I was going to vote no anyway, just because I'm a public educator and we don't need to do anything to take money away like that.
All right. There was a legislative effort to restructure the judicial nomination process. The Judicial Nominating Commission was created after the Supreme Court justices were involved in tax fraud, bribery scandals, all kinds of mess. The legislature sometimes feels like maybe the justices are too quick to overturn laws that are passed. There's a sense that there may not be enough transparency in the current process, but this would have put more power in the hands of the governor. What are your thoughts?
Okay. I had about 15 attorneys from Stillwater and Perkins contact me and say, vote no on this because it totally takes out the Oklahoma Bar Association from having a discussion with the governor. And based on some of the decisions the governor has made, I voted no. So that's how I think about it.
The Oklahoma Turnpike Authority is moving forward with a couple of major projects in the Norman area over the objections of property owners and residents and politicians from that part of the state. Do you think that they're using appropriate state power to do what they're doing?
I thought you said you weren't asking me any hard questions.
No, I said they won't all be hard.
Yeah, no, literally, when you get this job, every question is hard because we have to vote every single time if you're on the floor and you want to represent your constituents. To tell you the truth, I don't know enough about it to be totally one way or the other. I would hate to lose our home of 41 years just because they wanted to put a road through there. But I also know I love driving on the turnpikes and getting from one spot to another quicker. So I don't know how come they can't go 10 miles this way or this way. I don't know. But it definitely, I mean, I think there's 2 lawsuits right now. So what did you say? Right. But I mean, cutting through farmland to me is different than taking someone's home too. So that's all I know.
So we have an economy that is highly geared toward oil. What are some things that we can do to diversify our economy?
Well, I think we are starting in the right direction. We, are trying to get that company to come in and hire 4,000 people and put in $3.2 billion of investment. We're not helping them out at all until they do the investment and they do, and they hire 4,000 people. So to me, the more we can do that, I didn't realize that aerospace is the second most important industry in Oklahoma, and animals, agriculture is third. Anything we can do legally to diverse is going to be important. And so like in Stillwater, we got a new company coming in. Things like that are very important to think outside the box. And I think we're trying to do that as a legislature.
All right, the questions are over. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to let you take up to, let's say, 3 minutes to just sort of give your stump speech. What do you want us to know that I've not tapped onto already?
that I think I'm doing a good job. I work my gluteus maximus off, trying to represent the constituents of District 33. I came in 4 years ago saying I will listen and respond to my constituents, and I have worked very hard to answer every email, to make every phone call. I think I'm trying to do a very good job, and I would like another 2 years. So thank you for your time.
John, thanks for being here. He will continue to be around when the meeting is over if you want to visit with him. I don't know, he may have some literature or something stashed someplace, but take time talking as your representative. With that, we'll turn it back over to Sarah.
Thank you again, Representative Talley. Stillwater Frontier Rotary supports literacy, so we'll be donating a book to the Stillwater Public Library in your honor. Thanks again to our guests and visitors who joined us today. We hope you'll join us again. Next week,